Brandon Staley finally spoke from 49ers headquarters today. Did he answer the question we all want to know? What would you say you actually do, Brandon? Plus, Brian Griese spoke about Brock Purdy, and he also crapped on a question from one very prominent 49ers beat reporter. And yes, we have the video. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Levin Black. It's Wednesday night. We're doing this early, Levin, because I'm taking my son to his first Major League Baseball game tomorrow.
How dare you? That is not important.
I'm sneaking it in at the end of May in an afternoon game at the stadium.
Our podcast is more important. I expect to do a live show from Yankee Stadium.
Well, I actually like that we're going live now because all the assistant coaches spoke at the 49ers facility today. So we have a ton of sound from everybody. I got Brian Griese. I got Brandon Staley. I even got a really fascinating soundbite from Daniel Bullocks, the secondary coach, about what they are doing specifically with the rookies to get them up to speed. It was actually really, really interesting. So we have a lot to get to. I want to start with Brandon Staley, because that's the title of the video, first of all. And second of all, the more I hear people talk about it, Levin, the more I am convinced that Staley is the defensive coordinator in everything but title, and Nick Sorensen is there in title only.
It can go one of two ways. I lean opposite of you. Them not being able to answer what exactly he's going to be doing either means, yeah, he's the defensive coordinator and they don't want to admit it, or he's going to have an unspecified role. It's not going to be, hey, you handle this one spot and that's it. I think he's got the assistant head coach title. I think he's going to have his hands in everything. It was a chance. Shanahan looked at it as, hey, I want backup so that what happened last year doesn't happen. This way, yeah, if the guy that I chose as defensive coordinator doesn't work out, I can pull the plug on it. Last year, we didn't have a guy in the building that was capable of stepping up, wasn't ready for that. And two, I think he just respects Brandon Staley from a mindset, and he's all about getting as many smart guys in a room as possible when game planning. I think for Staley, it was, you're going to come in and you're going to kind of have a head coaching role in that you're not specific to this one thing. You might handle, as he mentioned today, the defensive backs, but you're going to be in the offensive meetings. You're going to be basically shadowing Kyle and being everywhere all at once. And that means he can kind of rehab his image and maybe get another head coaching opportunity in the future.
I did get that impression from Staley that, like, he said he's here because of Kyle and John. And I think he's basically telling you, like, everybody these guys touch gets another job. And I don't blame him for wanting another job. I go opposite of you. If they don't know his role by now, like, when are they going to figure it out? How do they?
It's not that they don't know it. It's that his role, it can't be defined. He can't say, oh, my role is this or that. It's my role is everything. I will be involved in all parts.
Let's let Brandon Staley himself answer the question so people can hear it and they can decide for themselves. Brandon Staley, 49ers assistant head coach / defense, which is how he's listed on the website. Help us out here. What do you do?
We'll work through all the seasonal rhythm stuff, but I think, I'm going to be here for, Kyle and John, where they need me to be. I think it'll be kind of a combination of, all my roles in the NFL, but I'm going to be working, primarily on defense, and but I'll be with, a lot of the different position groups, mostly in the secondary, and then working with Kyle, closely on a lot of other things.
First of all, it's the second time somebody has said Brandon Staley is going to help Kyle with a lot of things. Kyle said it. He said it. Hello, 49ers beat reporters. How about a follow-up? What things, Brandon? Like what, Brandon? Name one of a lot of things that you are going to be helping Kyle Shanahan with. It is so shady, the fact that you can't answer what he's going to do. I think it's crap. I think he's the defensive coordinator. I think he's coming up with the game plans every week, and they just didn't want to take the pile of crap they were going to get from hiring him. And I will never be convinced of that until I see something more on the field, because everything that they have said to me and what they have done points to puppet defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen.
Time's going to tell. We will know by mid-season what the truth is here. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he's not planning on being on the sideline. Sorensen is, and it's assumed Staley will then go to the booth because of that.
Well,
go ahead.
Let's talk about that, because Tim Kawakami followed up with Brandon Staley and said, have you had to explicitly have a conversation with Nick Sorensen? Like, hey, I understand you're the defensive coordinator. Like, I'm not trying to overstep or anything like that. Here was Staley's response.
That's been defined by Kyle and John. So, what it's really about is putting a group together that's committed to the Niners. And when I came here, that's certainly what I was committed to, and helping this team in whatever way, Kyle and John saw best. And, Nick has been fantastic, and we've got a great group of guys on this coaching staff.
You imagine you're going to be in the booth because Nick's going to be on the field?
I don't know that. Well, I think we'll take the next couple months, training camp, and, we've got a lot of time to make those decisions.
You were on the field when you were DC.
So thanks, Tim, for jumping in the question. Yes, he was on the field when he was DC. The fact that he's not going to be in the booth, he's going to be on the field too, Levin. Where do the 49ers like their defensive coordinators? On the field. I don't know.
Where did Kyle like all coaches on the field? I thought he would. So what I was going to say is I feel like maybe they're going to make him the eye in the sky where he gives feedback on both sides of the ball. So he's involved at all times. It's not like, when the offense takes the field, he's going to be working with Sorensen to make a change or whatever to the game plan. It's going to be, he's going to say, this is what I'm seeing, and helping Kyle as well. Maybe even being the guy that signals, hey, challenge that. But if he's going to be on the sideline, I still don't read anything into that, because Kyle wants all of his coaches on the sideline because he wants direct conversations between all coaches, himself, and the players. And that can only happen if they're on the sideline.
So there's no coaches in the booth for the 49ers? The booth is empty. The 49ers coaching booth is empty.
Well, it won't be empty. It'll be some very low-level people probably. I don't know. I could still see Staley being told, yeah, you're going to be up there. We'll see.
I don't like the fact that they are not just straight up answering the question. If you meet somebody, Levin, and you ask them, what do you do for a living? And they can't answer in like 2 or 3 words, that's a shady person. That is a person that's doing something shady.
What do you do for a living, Rob?
I'm a podcast host. Done. That's it.
You also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's a podcast. I am a podcast host. Or if it makes you feel better, I'm a 49ers content creator. Brandon Staley, what do you do? Well, I help all the positions, and sometimes I help the defense, and sometimes I help the offense. No, man, I don't like it. It's shady. And by the way, I'm not saying it can't work. It well may work. I'm saying it's highly unorthodox, and I'm saying they ain't telling us what's really going on.
I will. Yeah, it's unorthodox for sure. I'm not saying it's for sure going to work out, that there won't be, say, animosity or toes getting stepped on to where maybe this is untenable. Maybe Staley has such a hard time not having input and gets so frustrated he steps out. I think that's highly unlikely, but you know what I mean? There could be a power struggle here where Kyle has to tell one of them to go by mid-season. I seriously doubt that happens. I just don't look at it as, they're definitely hiding something. Maybe they are, but I don't think so. I lean, as I said before, towards they're not hiding anything. It's just he's going to have his hands in all parts because he's essentially a assistant head coach, as his title is.
Ashley, watching on YouTube, what's up, Ashley, says, I was wondering if Staley was going to sound much more confident and self-assured, because I thought Sorensen lacked that. But was surprised Staley also seems hesitant and avoided direct answers. The way he was kind of like looking around after he answered the question, and just the fact that he hasn't sat down with Sorensen and said, hey, dude, I get the deal. You're the DC. I'm here to help you. I'm here to make you better. The fact that repeatedly in his media session, Staley said, I'm here for Kyle. I'm here for John. I'm here to do whatever they want. Like, yeah, when they want me to become defensive coordinator in week 9, when the team's on the bye, I'll be willing to do that. I'm Oh man, this situation stinks. I hate when they don't tell us what's going on. I hate it.
Well, I don't like the situation. I did not like the Sorensen move. I did not like, all right, you're going to bring in Sorensen, but then you're going to bring in another guy
Mm-hmm.
that has a lot more credibility and
Experience.
history and experience as a defensive coordinator. Like, Staley was the guy that I said I wanted as the defensive coordinator. That was my pick of the assumed people available out there to be the defensive coordinator. He was top of my list because of what he did with the Rams. And I think him and Kyle together would be able to find that level again. I think Staley kind of lost his way with the Chargers, but in essence, he's still an extremely smart football mind that I think is a good defensive coordinator. So I'm not going to be shocked if they make the move. I don't like the way they set this up, but I'm not convinced they're trying to hide anything.
I don't think I think it's a weird situation. I don't like how they can't just be honest about it, right? If everything's on the up and up, like, just tell us. Just tell us what you're going to do. Are you going to help Nick Sorensen with the game plans? Are you going to be calling plays on the field? Are you going to help Nick Sorensen call plays? And what is the big secret? This stinks, man. And
the secret is the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan's going to retire, and Brandon Staley's going to be the next head coach. That's the secret. Which, by the way, I would be disappointed Kyle would retire at that point. But if you told me that's what you have right now as an option, I'm signing up because it means Super Bowl title.
Because it guarantees you a Super Bowl. Yeah. Stovey 4x4ing says, just have some balls and fully hire Staley as defensive coordinator. Man up and take the hit. I totally agree.
Why is it got to be balls? It can be ovaries too.
Great. Well, he wrote balls, so I just read it. If you think Staley's the best guy for the job and he's the best guy for the team, then do it. Then do it. Don't do this half measure. What did Mike Ehrmantraut say in Breaking Bad, right? No half measures. That's where I am with the 49ers right now. I feel like they didn't want to do it because they just tried to hire an outside guy to run their system, and they fired that guy. They were dissatisfied with that guy's performance. So if they did the same thing again, they were going to take a bucket of crap for it.
Maybe it's he wants somebody that's going to last multiple years, and he knows from the NFL circles and everybody talking that Brandon Staley is likely to be a very hot head coaching option this next offseason if he goes to the right situation and works out, which the Niners would have been the right situation. I mean, if he became the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, they once again had a, say, top 5 defense, and they made a playoff run to at least the NFC Championship game, would he not be like easily a top 3 head coaching candidate out there in the next hiring cycle? He almost definitely would be.
Maybe not. That just happened, and they just fired that guy. So that's exactly what happened with Steve Wilkes. They fired him. What it does to me is it chops Sorensen's authority out from under him, and it screams to me that Sorensen is not really ready for the job, and they know that, and so they're hiring Brandon Staley because he has so much experience and because they think he can help pick up the slack. That's really what it says to me.
Yeah, we agreed with that, a month and a half ago when they made this decision and they announced it, that, yeah, Sorensen is learning on the job, essentially, and they're bringing Staley in to help with that learning. It's kind of like I guess I go to this because of my background with my mother being a professor, but it's like you having a teaching aide who's training to be the real teacher, who may actually have a graduate degree or even PhD, but usually they will hire you as an adjunct professor for a year before you can get a true full-time gig that has a tenure track. And you might be overseen by somebody that has a tenure that kind of watches over you.
Daza 0187 YouTube channel member, shout out to Daza and all our YouTube channel members, says Shanahan and Lynch probably like Staley, but the players determine a lot of what happens. The players essentially got Wilkes fired. I kind of agree with that. I mean, clearly the players were not happy with Wilkes. They weren't happy with the blitz call. They weren't happy with where he was coaching from.
Yeah, a couple have sounded off in the offseason. Put it that
they
way.
have a significant voice in all of this. I don't think we can discount that. So that's a good point by Daza. And I see people, Brother Bob in the chat, we appreciate you, Bob, says, but Kyle Levy is great. This would be a fair criticism of Kyle Shanahan. But again, like I said earlier, just because I don't like the way they're handling it doesn't mean it won't work out. And to his credit, to be fair, Kyle Shanahan has done an excellent job replacing coaches that leave. He has done it multiple times. He has done it well multiple times. He has had significant losses on both sides of the ball, and he has filled the coaching staff well. So that we have to admit that, because that's the reality of the situation. So again, I'm not saying it won't work out or can't work out. I'm saying it's a weird situation.
I mean, let's go through the coaches that have been around for at least 6 of the 7 years Kyle's been here. There's not that many, but you got like Belichick. How many offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators did he go through in those final 5 years? It was like every year, at least one of them was getting replaced. You got Andy Reid. He's replaced 1, maybe 2. Eric Bieniemy was there forever. So he's only had to replace an assistant a couple times in those 7 years. He's one of the few coaches, might even be the only. Well, no, it's Tomlin. Tomlin's gone through a couple OCs, and he's only gone through a couple DCs because one retired. Like, he hasn't had much coaching turnover until like he had one big year where everybody retired, including Big Ben. But what Kyle has had is unique. It's not the Bill Belichick, hey, these guys are inept, so I have to replace them. It's, hey, these guys got head coaching gigs, so I'm being forced to replace a guy that was a freaking phenomenal pick, and now I'm stuck. It is unique, and I would venture, I guess it would take forever to research it. Kyle has had more assistant coaches become a head coach in, what would it be, 6 years since the first one happened, than any coach in NFL history.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would take a really long time to research.
Yeah.
He's certainly you could argue he's had more than anybody in his time as a head coach, for sure. I think he would be right at the top of the list. I mean, the staff gets rated. That's a reason that the staff gets rated, because people like what he's done and they want to poach it. And his guys have had success elsewhere. Like the Belichick guys, most of them really struggled. The Shanahan guys, they've done well. Obviously, McVay, LaFleur, Mike McDaniel's had success. So it's working for people. That's why they keep doing it.
And Saleh has lasted as long as anybody of the last, 10 years, since Rex Ryan lasted a few years because he had somewhat modest success in the beginning. Saleh's been kind of the snake-bitten head coach of the league, that every year something happens to ruin that team.
He's definitely the least successful. D'Amico Ryan's obviously too. I should mention on defense has been fantastic. God, they were a playoff team last year. So that's why his staff gets rated, but he has done a good job replacing them. One of the coaches that he did bring in this tenure is, of course, Brian Griese, the quarterback coach. Griese met the media today as well, which I think is really interesting because he doesn't really talk to the media that much. You don't get a lot of quarterback coach press conferences from any team, really. Not just the 49ers.
Griese's one of those guys that's going to go from QB coach to head coach, probably.
Well, he was asked, do you want to be an offensive coordinator? And I actually kind of liked his answer. I don't have the audio of it, but I can tell you what he said. His answer was basically, when I was a quarterback, I wanted to know that my quarterback coach was going to be in the room and he was going to be there, year after year, that we were going to build something together. And so he feels a real loyalty towards Brock and towards the quarterbacks in the room, which, let's be honest, he helped get Brock on the team in the first place. So that makes sense. He said, I'm not really thinking about offensive coordinator right now. Who knows what could happen down the line? But, right now he's really grateful for the opportunity that he has. So I thought that was interesting, that maybe, at least for a little while longer, he's going to be there and going to be locked in. And I think that is important when you're talking about the development of a 24-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, but see, he says that, but what happens, let's say Brock progresses and you get 26, 27-year-old Brock who's in his prime, that's MVP candidate. What else does Griese have to do for him?
Right.
There will come a point where it's like, all right, you're getting diminishing returns here because the longer you stay, the less credit you're getting.
That's possible. And like Griese said, maybe down the line, who knows? Hell, maybe somebody comes with a crazy offer next year and he's like, crap, this is too much money. I got to take it. Who knows? We don't know that. But I thought that was an interesting answer, and I kind of liked it from Brian Griese. Here is Griese talking about where Brock Purdy can improve this season.
At our progressions, footwork, how we manage games, situational awareness, the things that all quarterbacks have to continue to get better at. there were a number of things that come up that young quarterbacks have to be aware of as games go on. You know, when you get to the red zone fringe and maintaining field goal position and decisions that are made in those areas where you want to make a big play, but the smart play might be to check it down so you get us in field goal range. Things like that. That's what we talk about, situational awareness, on top of all the progressions. And then, you know, growing as a leader, you know, off the field, in the locker room, and what that entails and what that looks like. And as you gain more experience and status on the team and the league, within the organization, what opportunities that presents for you to take a little bit bigger voice, and setting accountability and expectations. So those are some of the things we talked about.
Have you seen that?
Thanks again, Tim Kawakami, for jumping in and rooting the end of the cut. I love the back half of that, Levin. You know, I've been about Brock stepping up as a leader, and I think this is where Greasy's experience as a former player really helps Brock Purdy. Because that I don't know that every coach is going to be talking about that part of the job. But because Greasy experienced it as a player, because Greasy had to take over for John Elway, remember in Denver, he has a very unique experience as a player. And I love that that was a focus for Brock, because I do think it's really important.
So I'll get to that, but the part I fixated on was him saying getting to the fringe of field goal range and staying in field goal position. Well, if you're at the 25, boy, it would take like a 20-yard loss to get out of field goal position. So I didn't quite get that part. But the thought I had was, I wonder if he's saying keep it at like 4th and 2. You know, take that check down to get us to 4th and 2 so I can convince Kyle to go for it. Don't make it 4th and 5 because you went for the home run ball. That's what I took from it. But the leadership part we've seen. What did Kyle say? That it's been great to see Purdy leading the team through every drill. That he's taking that mantle. He couldn't do it this past offseason because he was hurt. So this is the first offseason that Purdy's been able to take the mantle and say, this is the franchise. I'm the face of it from a player standpoint. So I'm going to lead everything.
Nick Eller, YouTube channel member, says stats hurt field goal position and almost lost it. I do think, like, I don't want them to sort of coach the aggressiveness out of Brock, because one of the most refreshing and exciting things about Brock Purdy has been his willingness to take doubles over singles, his willingness to go for the bigger play, especially after years of seeing Jimmy Garoppolo just throw it to the closest open guy forever. I hope they don't sort of coach that out of Brock, and I don't think that they will, because I think that's a very difficult thing to coach out of anybody. It's a fine line there as a quarterback. You have to massage that. You have to know, hey, let's not force anything. But you also have to know at certain points in the game, like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to take control, and maybe I do need to make a play. So that's something that I feel like you learn that feel for the game the more experience you get.
I feel like what the comment was more about, you know, you mentioned don't take the home run ball. I feel like it was the more so when the play is broken down and he's holding on to it because he's just like, hey, if I get another second here, that guy's going to come open and I can get the touchdown here. When he's got daylight in front of him and it's 3rd down and he can scramble for the first down. And to use the baseball analogy, it's like having a 3-0 count. Don't swing away, take the walk and continue. Like, give your team a chance. Get that first down, take the easy thing there and get the first down so that we can continue. Don't wait because, hey, that guy might be getting open here in a second. I just got to buy enough time. Just got to wait. Oh, crap. He's not getting open. Now I got to see what I can do. Maybe I can still get the first down. No, if you see 10 yards in front of you, take it.
And Steve Young's talked about that a lot, too, about how that's like a next level that Brock can get to. And knowing when to do that as well is also part of the field. That's why there are a bunch of ways that Brock can get better in 2024. There's a lot of people out there, especially a lot of Packers fans. Where can Brock get better? Brock is maxed out. He's capped out. Where can he get better for 2024?
Oh, maxed out at an MVP candidate. Woo!
All these different areas he can get better at. This was his first year as a starter last year. People forget that. Like, that's part of the reason I think he struggled with some of the stuff that Steve Spagnuolo threw at him in the Super Bowl. You've got one of the best big game defensive coordinators of all time going up against a 24-year-old kid who's in his first full year as a starting quarterback. That's part of it. So, of course, there's areas for Brock to get better and improve at this year.
Yeah, let's just hope he hits it, because there's been areas that Kyle Shanahan can improve his coaching, like when Steve Spagnuolo's throwing blitzes at you and you need to change your protections, but he hasn't improved in those in 7 years. You know, there is that question. Can Brock improve? If he can't, hey, guess what? He's still a really good quarterback. Is he elite? No, I wouldn't quite put him in that elite category. He has certain things that I think he's elite at, but overall he would not be an elite quarterback. But is he good enough to win a Super Bowl with? Absolutely. He can win a Super Bowl with how he played last year. If he's able to improve on what he was last year, now you get the bona fide, all right, he's going to be an MVP candidate every year, and he's somebody you're going to have to deal with every single time you play him, because if you don't, he will beat you. Whereas I feel like the approach we all know has been, we have to deal with Christian McCaffrey, because if we don't, he's going to beat us. If Brock can get to the point of, yeah, you picked McCaffrey, I'm going to beat you every single time, you got to start concentrating on me. Well, then you unlock a whole nother ball game with the 49ers.
You know, you touched on something that I think is true, and I think that people don't always think about.
You're saying I'm right?
Well, I think you brought up
Just to clarify.
You know, I'll really drive it home here to make sure people are aware of it, because you know you didn't really do that. But sometimes your quarterback has to make up for your shortcomings of your head coach, just like sometimes your head coach has to make up for the shortcomings of your quarterback. Kyle, like you talked about, he's kind of set in his ways with certain things and certain philosophies. And sometimes it just may get to a point where we're going to need Brock to overcome that. If Brock knows Kyle Shanahan's not going to go for it on 4th and short, then maybe he does need to hold on to the ball a little longer on 3rd down and try to make a play, because he knows he's not going to get another shot to do it. Sometimes your head coach, they have to complement one another in that way. I think Mahomes does that with Andy Reid sometimes, because Andy Reid sometimes can get, you know, a little dicey with some of his play calling, but Mahomes is a friggin' wizard, and he just magically makes stuff happen that takes Andy Reid off the hook. And Kyle has talked about many times how players sometimes have to overcome coaching. Like it's not something he's unaware of. He's aware of it too. And I think that's something that Brock can do based on his play style and what we have seen from him so far. It does seem like he may be able to do some of that, which as a fan to me is very exciting.
That for him to do that and truly unlock that, I feel like he has to get to the level where Kyle trusts him in a way that Kyle has not trusted any quarterback so far. And that is to allow him to change things at the line of scrimmage. If he knows, hey, they are coming after me. I know they're coming after me. Kyle still doesn't believe it. So he's making this play call that I know is not going to work out, because I'm not going to have the time to get it to work out. I'm going to hot route this guy and change him to, you know, a short slant, whatever you want it to be, a short out, whatever, something that's a quick hitter, so that if the blitz does come, he can get it out. You know, if he had had that ability against the Chiefs, I feel like Brock probably would have recognized some things and done that they're coming after me every single play. I'm going to stop believing what I'm seeing as the disguise. Yeah, they're not showing blitz yet, but they've been coming after me every single play. So I'm going to change this, because they're probably coming after me even though they're not showing it yet. You know what I mean? Like, get to the point where he's capable of being the field general, not the game manager, the field general. And if he can make that, like just that change, that improvement will, I think, unlock that kind of elite tier for him, where his pre-snap recognition skills, which is his best skill in my opinion, would then play into that. And you're going to give that its full potential, because you're allowing him to change things based on the pre-snap recognition.
And when you say change things, you mean more than just choosing between play A or B, which the 49ers,
right.
Every team
you're not audibling a full play. You're not saying, all right, we had a pass play, we're going to a run play, or we had a run play, we're going to a pass play. It's, we're keeping the same play, but this one guy, I'm changing their route.
Or, hey, I don't like either one of the, or maybe this play is good, but they're in a look where I really think this other play that we run would really work in this spot. It doesn't seem right now like Kyle is giving his quarterback the authority to do that. For example, like Aaron Rodgers, when he goes to the line of scrimmage, every play in the playbook is at his disposal. He can go and read the defense and say, nope, this is what they're in. This is what they're going to do. I know exactly the play. that's going to work. Now, for the record, that doesn't always work. But a lot of times it does, especially for Aaron Rodgers. You have to have supreme trust in your quarterback to get to that level. And maybe Kyle will do that. I did a show earlier today by myself, and I pointed out that we've never really seen Kyle have a chance with multiple years with a healthy young quarterback. When he got to Matt Ryan was in his 30s. Like, he wasn't developing, like a young buck. They had RG3, but RG3 got hurt, and that derailed everything. We haven't really seen Kyle get like this ball of clay to mold. So we don't know.
Johnny Manziel. What are you talking about?
Oh, God. We don't know. The guy who was literally watching zero film. Maybe Kyle will be willing to do that. We got to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we have not seen Kyle forget young or old, the same quarterback healthy for multiple years in a row. He has not had the same quarterback start a full season 2 years in a row, ever. He's never had that. So if he can have that, maybe he does trust in this whole thing of he doesn't trust people, doesn't trust his quarterback to allow audibles. It's just the fact that, he had Matt Ryan 2 years in a row, but he unlocked the second year. The first year, Matt Ryan has flat admitted he struggled to pick up the offensive system. So I guess technically he has had 2 years, but you know what I mean? Like, he's not gotten to the point where, hey, this quarterback's been good. He really knows the offense in and out. He can tell things as well as I can. He speaks my language, which Kyle has already said about Brock Purdy. I'm going to give him all the keys.
And I hope he does. And I hope Brock is a guy that can handle that, because then you really get a hell of a combination. Then you could potentially really get something special. Because like you said, that's Brock's best attribute. So when you're allowing him to use that as much as possible, I think it can only help you. Batman 29 says, is Brock more like good Kirk Cousins or good Russell Wilson? It's an interesting question. I would say it has to be more like good Russell Wilson, only because Kirk doesn't scramble at all, like ever. And Brock does a little bit and may continue to do it more in the future. And Russell Wilson, especially early Russell Wilson, he scrambled to extend the play to pass, but he also knew when to take off and run, especially around the goal line.
Yeah, I don't think either one of those are great comparisons.
Yeah.
In terms of what he resembles the most, like you said, Russell Wilson, because inside the pocket, those two were magicians. They were there, and the defensive guy is closing in on him. You think he has him dead to the rights, and the next thing you know, he's standing by himself outside of the pocket, and there's been no sack. Both of those guys were great at being closed in on and still getting out of it. But I don't think it's a great comparison. As you said, one, Russell Wilson had that moon ball of a deep ball, which for a while there was one of the best in the league.
It was awesome.
And two, like you said, Russell Wilson, I mean, he was getting 500-600 yards rushing in his early years. He would take off.
100%. And Brock, I hope that Brock, that's actually like the perfect amount for Brock to run. If he could run like Russell did and when Russell did in those spots, I think I would be pretty satisfied.
And Russell almost always slid too. He never took the hit.
That's true. You're right. Russell Wilson's arm is better than Brock Purdy's. Those moon balls were friggin' God. His deep ball was so damn good. He would just drop it in the bucket. Brock doesn't have that kind of arm, which is fine.
When the deep ball goes off the screen for like multiple seconds in a row, it's something unique.
Jeff Blake used to do that back in the day. I don't know if people are old enough to remember. He used to be a Bengals quarterback, and he would chuck the ball, and it would go out of the screen and just fall from the sky.
Jeff Blake, I remember because I can't remember if he said it or he dang near set the passing record for a single game. He had a game of, I think, over 400 yards. This was like right around 99, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching that game.
Nick Ellert says Carl Pickens loved Jeff Blake. Carl Pickens had like a couple years there.
It's funny you say that because you got George Pickens for Russell Wilson now.
Yeah, that's true. Fish and Chips says, did you two reach common ground for this YouTube broadcast? It's very rare that we do.
Common ground. I don't know. I feel like we agree a lot more than we disagree. It's just when we disagree, I call you out for being so stupid.
When we disagree, we don't have any like gentle disagreements. It's usually like opposite ends of the spectrum.
I mean, that's the show. We're not nice to each other.
I always say I'm a good person. I'm not a nice person. And those are two very different things.
I am very, very big for calling things like they are. Just call it for the truth. I don't believe in this. Ooh, yeah, that's true, but let's not tell them that because that might hurt their feelings. Or no, tell them the truth, and it's theirs to deal with. They take it for what you want. I hate that. You run into that even in like work life. You don't. I guess your work life, yeah, because you gotta sometimes you maybe don't tell your wife the truth about how long you're going to be on or something. I don't know, but that would be your work life scenario.
Oh boy. Okay.
What news?
So I'm seeing an update to there was a tweet from Keshawn Nixon of the Packers, the return man from the Packers. It wasn't really a tweet. It was a clip of a press conference that he did where he said, "We let a playoff team off the hook in the playoffs last year," referring to the 49ers. Diamador Lenore saw that and quote tweeted it and said, "Who did you leave off the hook?" And apparently there was a little back and forth. Keshawn Nixon then replied to that and said, "I said what I said, Custer face." And Lenore replied, "You lucky you stopped wearing a visor. I would have cracked it like I did when you were in high school." I don't know if that's true. I don't know if
Those two got history then.
well, I don't know if they're friends and joking around, which is very well, that could be a
Yeah.
thing too. I don't know. Apparently,
Kind of like us. We treat each other like crap and we smack talk each other, but we get along enough that you trust me with everything. Put it that way.
So again, I don't know the oops, that's not the right thing. I don't know the specifics of is this them joking around? What is, the specifics of the relationship? I just happen to see those tweets in an article on NBCsports.com. I'll throw them up on the screen if you're watching right now. You can see it. But this kind of Niners Packers thing is sort of developing into like a little bit of a rivalry. And I'm sorry, I've never seen a team want more credit for losing a game than the Packers and their fans. Oh my God, do they want credit just because the game was close and didn't get blown out? It's really pathetic at this point.
It is pretty bad. I want to know what he means by Custer face.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that like that might be the cue that this is joking around because that might be like an inside joke. Like maybe that was a nickname for Lenore back in high school or something. Who knows?
Right. I have no idea. Debo chimed in and said it's brotherly love. Again, I have no idea if they were joking around or not. And I'm not going to, there's a good chance that they were just joking around. But I love the fact that the Packers and all their fans are like, oh, we should have won the game. And then what they do is they change all the plays to go in the Packers' favor and don't change any of the plays for the 49ers. Oh, if Darnell Savage caught this ball and returned it for a touchdown. Oh, if we didn't miss a field goal. Oh, if Aaron Jones doesn't get caught when he breaks that big run. It's like, okay, great. But how about we apply that to both sides? If the 49ers didn't miss a field goal, if the 49ers didn't drop interceptions in that game, which they did, if Keshawn Nixon's fumble is not recovered by a Green Bay Packer on the long kick return, the 49, like the game is different. It's just funny how they want to change only things in their favor and then get credit for saying that they should have won the game and they outplayed the 49ers.
I mean, there's one glaring, obvious thing that you could change for the Packers to have won, and you just put it up there on the screen with Love. If Love doesn't throw two boneheaded, terribly stupid, moronic interceptions, they win that game. Love lost them that game. That was my takeaway from that game, that they could have won this game, but Love didn't get it done because he made errors that a young quarterback makes. This is his growing up playoff game. I can't get away with this against a playoff defense. I have to be better.
But it's just funny to me because the 49ers made the interceptions. Dre Greenlaw caught both of the interceptions, but that somehow doesn't matter. right? It's only, well, the Packers dropped theirs, and that's the only thing that matters. Well, the 49ers didn't drop theirs, at least not all of them. So it's a credit to the 49ers. It's unbelievable how they sit there. I mean, Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, who I really like. He's a really good guy. We talked at the Super Bowl a bunch. He was there. But he and I have gone back and forth, and his comeback was, well, the Packers controlled the game. Like, I don't even know what that means. It was a one-score game the entire game. The lead could have flipped on any one play in the entire game, yet the Packers controlled the game? That doesn't make sense to me. All these things that they want credit for, like, just, dude, you lost. You lost. I don't see Cowboys fans saying, well, if you change 5, 6, or 7 plays, we really gave that game away. No.
If we used an offensive line and not just Ezekiel Elliott, we would have won the game.
Nick Ellert says, I wish we could hear Stone Cold Steve Austin's music, and Michelle comes on and says, did someone say Packers?
And then she smashes 2 beers together and chugs them.
Right, like George Kittle did. Although, if you watch that video with Kittle, he doesn't actually drink the beers. He smashes them together. Yeah. Maybe it was like a slick move by Kittle to, like, he wanted to do the thing, but he also, like, didn't want to be smashed for OTAs the next day.
Well, like when you watch Stone Cold do that, I mean, that's Stone Cold's move. He gets like foam in his mouth, so it looks like he drinks, but you don't see him like chugging. He's not truly chugging them.
Yeah.
I mean, it all sprays out when you smash them together, and they still have all that pressure in there.
So I saw that from Nixon, and I saw the back and forth. So I wanted to mention it again because I thought it was interesting. And for some reason, certain things just tick me off, man. And that thing is one of them.
We hadn't noticed. I'm speaking for the whole, gold standard viewers here. We hadn't noticed that was the case with you.
It's just that bugs me. The Eagles fans refusing to acknowledge that the 49ers losing all of their quarterbacks played a part in the NFC Championship game in 2022. That will forever bug the hell out of me. Like, it's just certain things just, I don't know, they grind my gears and I can't let it go.
What do I do that grinds your gears?
What don't you do? Just about everything grinds my gears. Pretty much. First of all, you disagree with me when you should agree most of the time because, let's be honest, I'm usually right in all things. So there's that.
I mean, you're the one that had to copy me and wear your homage shirt on this show.
I have like 50 homage shirts. What are you talking about? I went with the Tecmo Bowl one today. For any
I got the old graphics.
If you want some homage gear, they got a bunch of new stuff too, by the way. You can click a link in the description of this episode. Click our link so that we get money for that. Please and thank you. It'll take you right to the...
You know what was kind of surreal? Like, I remember when homage was just reaching out to us in the early days. Like, they were newer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see them around. I actually am seeing people, and I recognize like the H logo on the side of their shirts, and it's for all different things. Like I saw one that was like a meme shirt. It wasn't even sports related, and I saw the H on it, and I was like, "Oh, that's an homage shirt." I'm starting to see them everywhere. They're kind of blowing up.
Oh, yeah, they're huge. They have a deal with New Heights with the Kelsey podcast. They're in the 49ers team store at Levi's. They have homage stuff there, so they are absolutely huge. And shout out to homage because they were an early sponsor for us, so we really do appreciate that. Let's get to this comment, which I know you'll appreciate, Levin. Steve-O says, I'd watch more, but Rob's face irks me. You know what, Steve-O? It irks me too.
Can we create like a filter where they can click a button and it just blacks out the screen where you're at?
I guess theoretically I could shut off my camera and you could just hear my voice. Would that be more helpful for you, Steve-O?
No, because I'd still hear your voice.
Diego says, Levin, it's sad that your shirt is still up to date. It's true.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that one. This is technically a Tecmo Bowl shirt too, by the way. That's Tecmo Bowl graphic.
Oh,
that's their image of when you score a touchdown. They kind of combined things there.
Steve-O gave me the thumbs up. He wants me to turn the camera off. Cynthia says, Rob, the Niners got revenge and broke Philly in 2023. Yeah, people are going to say that too about when the Niners and Chiefs play this year, or if the Packers beat the 49ers this year. You don't really get revenge, right? The Niners have owned the Rams in the regular season, but the Rams still beat them to go to the Super Bowl in 2021. Yeah. There's nothing that could make up for that except another playoff victory. That's really the only thing.
Philly fans still haven't gotten over that, though. I don't know if you saw that from earlier this week. Cracked me up.
No, what?
Somebody replied to my video that I posted of the moment showing like, oh, this shows the angle where Dom really pushed him. and calling Dom, a guy that doesn't belong on the sidelines. Somebody replied to it saying, trying to smack talk me about losing the Super Bowl. And I was like, okay, this got to be a Philly fan. Let me double check. And I click his profile. Not just a Philly fan. He works game day security.
He's Dom's coworker.
6 months later, finding my post from the day of the game, the response like, man, that's sitting with you guys.
Yeah, that is really weird. Like, he must have just Googled it, I guess. Like, why would you randomly search for it that far after the fact? And I like that you called him out on it and took a screenshot of his profile and circled the part that said he works for the Eagles.
Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of brutally honest. I'm gonna if you come at me on Twitter, I'm probably going to respond. At least until I get too many followers and too much of that. But as of now, it's very, very manageable.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have to really worry about that anytime soon. Other 49ers coaches spoke. Johnny Holland spoke. The linebackers coach. The Daniel Bullock's soundbite is the one I haven't played yet that I promised I wanted to get to. Daniel Bullock's coaches the secondary, and the best moment. I didn't get to those two either. All right, well, let's go with the Daniel Bullock's. We'll get to both.
You know what you didn't get to? King Joser just called you out for it. I had forgotten about that. You were collecting clips all year last year saying that, I'm going to release a bloopers at the end of the year. It's almost the end of May, bud.
I know. And I responded to him in the chat, but I can bring it up publicly since you brought it up. It's a bad job by me.
Calling things out. Yeah.
It's a bad job by me. The end of the year got super busy, and it was one of the things that I didn't get to, unfortunately. I wish we had a bigger staff. We don't. I still have all the files. It's not really video. It's mostly audio. But I do have the clips. They're not really bloopers. They're just, some are bloopers, but some are just like funny, stupid stuff that we have said throughout the course of the year. I still have it. I do need to put it together, and maybe in the off season I can, and I'll just release it as like a pod or whatever. But that's a bad job by me. I really honestly did want to do that. Because when you speak on a microphone for a living, you say dumb stuff. It's inevitable. It just happens. And it's important to remember it and bring it back whenever possible.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear everything else people said that was dumb. Not anything from me, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right.
Hard to find clips of me saying anything stupid. It sounds like you need to cancel the Disney trip and instead spend that week getting this.
Yeah, Levin never says anything stupid.
Yes, I am totally unimportant.
Nope, you never say anything dumb.
Hey, that was not dumb. I am unimportant.
Did you?
If I left this network right now and never shut up again, how much do you think you would really lose on a listener and viewership basis?
Very, very little.
Yeah. It's not about me.
But I would lose a lot in behind the scenes things and business things and all the other things that you do for me and for the network.
Sure. But let's just be honest here. I am unimportant. I am well aware of this.
Fish and Chip says, hell, you might gain something. Yeah, you might be onto something there.
Yeah. Not wrong. Thank you, Fish and Chips.
Okay. Let's get to the two clips I want to play before the end of the show. First, Daniel Bullock, secondary coach, was asked a very interesting question. Basically, hey, you've got some rookies in the secondary. We know the system is complicated. We know it can be tough for rookies. What are you doing to get the rookies up to speed? Here's what he said.
Right now, since rookie minicamp, we meet with them guys more than we do with the vets. Every day after the practice meeting, we have a rookie meeting, and that's one thing Cal set up to get those guys caught up. So it may be an extra 3 hours. So if we already have meetings in the morning, we go out there and practice on the practice field, and we come back, we have a 3-hour meeting each and every day, and all we do is just review their technique, review the install. So mentally, they caught up. So our whole goal is by the time they start working with the vets, after they have rookie minicamp, they got 1 week with the vets. So for that week, before rookie minicamp, we get on Zoom meetings and we install everything like we do with our vets. So to catch them up mentally. So then when they go through rookie minicamp, it's a smooth transition. After the minicamp, we meet with them again. So then now by the time they get with the vets, they already heard everything that we done told our vets. So they already ahead of the curve from a mental standpoint in regards to the install and all that. So when we're able to go out there on the field, they know exactly what the coach is talking about. They know exactly what the call is. They can get a line up and they can execute their call.
That's pretty damn crazy.
Are you surprised?
I mean, an extra 3-hour meeting every single day. That's how complicated the system is. That's how difficult it is to learn the system.
Yeah, during this period. He's not talking about in the season.
Right. But still, what I want to know is this a new thing that they started this year, or has Kyle been doing that from the beginning? I'd be interested to know, because if it's a new thing for this year, that gives me a little more hope for guys, Pearsall and Green and Pooney and all those guys.
3 hours, maybe they changed the amount of time, but that's pretty common. Most teams will make their rookies do more because they have to get up to speed. The NFL there is no comparison, honestly. I don't think other sports quite have the same learning curve the NFL has. Like, baseball has a learning curve once you get to the majors, but you've had all these years in the minors, and you coming up to the majors is more so you just face pitchers that are a hell of a lot better and hitters that are a hell of a lot better. It's not so much a learning curve as it is just these guys are so much better, they're going to attack you in a way you haven't seen before. In the NFL, the systems, the schemes that are run, the amount of adjusting that you have to do on the fly, that you have to be able to recognize on the fly without a coach being able to say, hey, this is what they're doing, is on another level compared to other sports.
Are you concerned with the fact that Juwan Jennings, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, not at OTAs?
Talk to me when training camp starts. I really don't care. If somebody's holding out in the offseason for these OTAs, it doesn't matter. The track record you can go and look at of players like Nick Bosa, first time he's been at OTAs, right? That's been a big topic that he was told, if you want to be more of a leader, you need to step up and show up to OTAs. And there's been a reaction from a lot of the vets, mostly, that Bosa actually showed up. So we need to take this seriously, right? So I don't think it matters whether you're there or not. It's just training camp. Once the season truly starts, if you're not there, that matters. And we saw that with, once again, Bosa last year.
The interesting thing to me is, number one, is McCaffrey not there because he wants more money and he's doing it quietly? That would be an interesting thing.
I think he wants an extension, not necessarily more money. I don't think he's expecting 12 plus million a year again. I think he probably just wants, all right, before I play this season and potentially get hurt, I want my extension so that I can get, another 30, 40 million on a 4 or 5 year deal.
So he has a cap number of $14.1 million this year. Maybe he wants more of that as like a signing bonus. Maybe they could work out something like that so that they're not really giving him more money, but they're giving him guaranteed money. Because if he gets hurt, there's different things. So we'll see about Christian McCaffrey. And the last point I want to make, I don't know if I've made it on a Niners podcast. I know I made it on a Bleacher Report stream that I did. Juwan Jennings not showing up for OTAs is freaking bold, man. Like, Juwan Jennings, who do you think you are? The 49ers just drafted a wide receiver in the first round and another wide receiver who might be good. And you're choosing to stay away from OTAs and give them more reps? That's a bold move. That's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jennings, speaking of unimportant things, this team can get by just fine without Jennings. Is he more valuable than the person that would replace him? Yeah. I mean, his blocking is on another level. He does come up big in big moments. I'm not saying like they will instantly be able to replace everything he does, because if that was the case, they would have never tendered the offer to begin with that he has sitting out there. But I don't think they really skip a beat if he's not there. Like, they can adjust and figure out a way to work around him. He is not Ayuk. He's not even Debo. And he's not the first round wide receiver. So you are clearly fourth on the pecking order at best coming into this next season.
Juwan Jennings is a fine player. He's been a valuable player for this team. He's had a very important role for this team, but he is totally replaceable. He's not the only wide receiver that blocks. He's not the only wide receiver that can make catches on third down. And I don't know if it's a personal thing with him, if it's, something like that. I get it. This is a voluntary thing. He hasn't signed his tender yet, and he's staying away from OTAs. And all I'm saying is, dude, this is the NFL. There's always people gunning for your job. They just took a guy at your position in the first round that they obviously are very impressed with and think could do good things. If I were Juwan Jennings, I would not want to open the door for anybody else to give. I wouldn't even want to give anybody else the opportunity to do it. It's his life. It's his job. He can do what he wants with it. I just thought it was a pretty damn bold move by Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, and I'm seeing in comments, so I'm going to respond to the Christian McCaffrey part because I saw it on Twitter as well. People are saying, isn't Christian McCaffrey about to get married? Yeah, I know he's having a wedding sometime soon, but here's the thing. Not like OTAs are a secret, and it's not like you have like a short window. You have 2 more months that you could have scheduled that wedding for. You could have done it, in June. You could have done it in July. You could have done it the previous month when vets have nothing to do. This is literally the 1 week of the off season that you have something that would be worthwhile to show up for. Doesn't mean you have to. It is voluntary, but the wedding's not an excuse.
I mean, look, it's a
choice.
It's a voluntary thing. If he doesn't want to show up for it, he certainly doesn't have to. If he says, I'm a vet, I know what I'm doing, I know the system now, I don't want to show up, that's fine. My only concern with him not showing up is, does he want more money? That's it. Other than that, I'm not worried about him being prepared. I totally get why he would want more money. He's literally the reigning offensive player of the year. He was incredible last year. But that wasn't something that, had even been whispered about or brought up this offseason. Like, hey, what if Christian McCaffrey wants a rate? Like, nobody was talking about that, and they may have to talk about it if that is indeed what he wants. I do want to point out, as Jason Aponte reminded me on Tuesday, June 1st, they get like $18 million of cap space because that's when the Eric Armstead money will become available.
Yep.
So maybe they can do some things at that point and get Christian paid and everybody's happy, and that's fine. I have no idea. But if you asked me, is Christian McCaffrey going to be at OTAs, I would have been like, oh yeah, absolutely.
So breaking news here. I am holding out next week. I will not be here. And you're damn right I want more money, Rob.
Well, we have a firm policy at this network not to negotiate with people that hold out. You have a contract, although you haven't signed your new contract yet, which I sent out yesterday.
The first time I have sat down at a computer. I don't sit in an actual computer very much, so I was unable to do it on my phone. So,
I'm just saying, Steph Sanchez sent hers back.
Yeah, I know. She emailed it to everybody.
Giant celebrity in the 49ers schedule release video, and she sent it back. What's your excuse?
She's probably on vacation in Cabo. She became part of the club.
She's part of the Cabo crew now. She's a lot closer to it than I am, I'll tell you that. That was so cool and so awesome. And the way that she didn't tell any of us, I was furiously dialing her number when I saw the video. I was like, you son of a... How did you not tell? Like, she knew about it for like months, obviously, because they filmed it ahead of time. I wouldn't have been able to keep it a secret. I'm telling you right now, if I was in that thing in some way, which would never happen, by the way, but if I was involved with anything like that, I would have told people.
Make some bold predictions and you might show up in it for being wrong.
That's true. They could use my voice calling somebody into question on the video that they do, the 49 hours video. Where it's, I don't think the 49ers are going to do it. They haven't been very good. And then, bam, they go out and do it.
They should trade Debo. And he goes off for 2,000 yards.
Well, but you know what? I've been wrong about enough stuff that if they wanted to do it, they certainly would have enough ammunition.
Yeah, I think that's true for just about everybody that has to talk every single week.
The problem is they would actually have to have somebody listening to this, and they definitely don't.
You might not be wrong about that.
No, I will say I gave them credit for having Steph in the video, and they also did a video with Rita Oak and a bunch of her art on the website. Like, they clearly are aware of the 49ers content creator community. Doesn't mean they're aware of every single content creator, but clearly they're aware of it. And I thought it was a really cool way to kind of honor that. So I gave them love for that. I thought that was pretty cool.
I would guess they're aware of most content creators. I would guess they are aware of the Gold Standard Network. Doesn't mean they know us intimately. Doesn't mean they know every host. I would say they are aware of your presence. They know you and probably have an idea of what you're about. You know, whether you're a Lombardi or you're a Grant Cohn. They probably have an idea of who are the content creators out there and where do they fall on that line.
Perhaps. I mean, I have met John and Kyle multiple times when I was working for PFT at NBC. Like, I'm not saying they remember me. John Lynch seemed like he remembered me at one point. He's probably forgotten about me now. So they, at one point, they were aware of my existence on this planet, but who knows? You mentioned David Lombardi, so I will play the last video clip of the day. Here is, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 99.9% sure, David Lombardi asking Brian Greasy a question and Greasy's response.
Just to the naked eye, that from year one to year two, Brock in year one was a little inefficient rolling to his left, and year two, lights out. I mean, starting with that Pittsburgh game, he made several big plays rolling to his left. Was that a point of emphasis in between off seasons 1 and 2, and is that something that you guys have really documented that he's gotten better at?
Rolling to his left? No.
I don't know for sure if it was Lombardi or not, but whoever it was, that is hilarious. I hate when people try to interject their own knowledge into a question and talk about something as if they have this great knowledge and then throw the question. Just ask the question. Did you work with Brock on rolling left? And I just love that Greasy was just like, nope.
I don't know. It was so much that. Look, I've asked a leading question on purpose before in a press conference because I know, hey, I'm writing this article. I would love to have a quote about it. So I'm going to lead him to the water and make it painfully obvious what I'm wanting and hope he drinks the water so that I get a quote for my story. It's probably what he's probably working on an article. We'll probably see it in the next week or two about what is Brock going to potentially improve on this offseason? Where are the things he could be weak? And in it, he's going to say, oh, he rolls to his left a lot better now. And he's hoping to get a quote to add credence to that.
Those questions that you're talking about, I hate those kind of questions. That is a selfish question. Oh,
it is 100%.
Yeah.
But you have a job to do as a beat reporter.
Ask, like, you can ask questions without trying to lead the horse to water and make him drink. And by the way, now you wasted your question, which may be the only question you get, because that's sometimes you only get one question in these press conferences. He said no like that. So now you got nothing anyway.
Yeah. The way he answered that was a little surprising. Like there was animosity, it felt like, in that answer. Whether it was just towards the question or the person, I have no idea. But it definitely seemed like a F that question. I don't, that's a clown question, bro.
Questions and interviews are a passion of mine. I have a very distinct and some would say rigid way of I think that they should be done. And so when people do what I think is a bad job, I love to see them get dunked on for it.
I'm just saying, as somebody that's been in those shoes, sometimes you have to try to narrow the walls on a question so that you can write your article.
But why? Write an article on that comes from a quote on a good question. Don't make your question suit your article. Write your article to suit the answers.
So maybe this changes with online media because I wrote mostly for newspapers, but what you're writing and when and the amount you are devoted to it is usually predetermined because they have to design the page and sell ads based on how much room there is and all of that. So it's not as simple as here's the story, I'm going to write it. It's here's the story, I'm going to write it tomorrow after I get the interview. I hope it will be, I hope it will be around, there's different lingo in newspapers, but it will be around 1,000 words. Or you'll be told by the editor, you only have 600 words, so you better make it fit. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it. Online probably changes a good bit of that.
Jan says, just ask open questions. What were the points of emphasis with Brock last offseason? Which, by the way, that was already asked in the press conference by that point. So David or whoever asked that question had a quote that he could include in that article already. But he wanted a specific question about rolling left because in his mind, this was a big thing that Brock Purdy did. And guess what? He got nothing out of it. As they say in my household, named up pasenza named. You got nothing. Anyway, I just wanted to include that last little bit. Oh, and one more quick thing I saw that Daniel Bullock said. He said Malik Mustafa beats him to the office sometimes. That's how early he's showing up as a rookie. Gotta love that.
It's awesome. Speaking of awesome, Steve-O has a comment in the chat. I'm not going to throw it up, but he says, 11, your contract now includes a blooper reel. I do like that. Maybe I will hold out until you include in the contract. Rob must finish blooper reel by end of June.
I never agreed to that.
I know, and I haven't signed my contract yet. So
this isn't a you're like Ricky Pearsall taking part in the OTAs without a contract, which, by the way, you really shouldn't do because if he gets hurt, yeah. I don't know that he's covered. So he should probably sign it.
I don't think you are.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the injury. I think that has happened once or twice in the past. And it was basically the team either says, we're not going to sign you at all, or they're limited. Or you're limited to, the rookie contracts now, there's not much wiggle room in them. Yeah. So it's either don't have this player ever, even in it, a year or 6 months when they're healthy, or go ahead and sign them to the contract and just deal with the injured player.
Diego, we're laughing because the YouTube channel member Diego Figueroa says Levin unfollows the Gold Standard Podcast Network. That would be a live instant reaction if that happened. I think we'd have to go live.
If I was really going to do shenanigans, I would just post from our Twitter and our Facebook and everything saying, Levin deserves more money or whatever.
Fish and Chip says I should franchise tag you. And Nick Ellert says, can you trade Levin? Do you hold his rights? I mean, I could trade him, but nobody else wants him. So it takes two to tango, You're
not wrong about that part. Franchise tag me. Well, the franchise tag is what, like, what is it, 110% of the 5 highest paid at your position? It's 120.
It used to be the average of the top 5 or 110%, whatever was bigger. I think they recently changed that calculation in the last few years. I'm not sure what it is now.
Well, breaking news, everybody's paid the same. So I'm not getting any extra.
Jan says I should leak the contract. I'm not going to. Look, I go back to my time as a host. I didn't want my contract negotiated. Isn't that what John Lynch always says? I didn't like my stuff discussed in public.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast. Like and subscribe to the
YouTube. Won't do it.
Do it, damn it. So again, no live show tomorrow from me because I will be at the Yankees-Mariners game at Yankee Stadium, hopefully watching the Mariners win. So that's why we're doing this show live tonight. It'll still be an audio podcast wherever you get your podcast. There'll still be a 49ers in 5 tomorrow morning. Don't worry about that. But if you're wondering where we are tomorrow, that is the answer. I'll be live with Michelle on Friday. We're going to do some bold predictions for the 2024 season. Which, by the way, Michelle has the Niners going 14-3 this year, Levin.
Yeah, I heard that. See, I listen.
What's your record prediction?
You don't remember?
No.
We discussed it. I think it was 12-5.
Yeah, that's what I had to. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. We'll talk to you next week.